From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Friendships are an essential part of our well-being. Mental health experts say they see an epidemic of loneliness in the U.S. And they say having close friendships is crucial for our emotional and physical health. So, if you want to build better friendships and strengthen the ones you already have, you might be wondering how to go about it. Luckily for us, there's a bona fide friendship expert at Colorado State University. Natalie Pennington is an assistant professor of communication studies, and she co-leads the American Friendship Project, an ongoing research study of the state of connection in the U.S. Today, we're listening back to a conversation I had with Natalie in January. She offered loads of practical tips on how to build friendships or reconnect with friends we haven't seen for a while. One of the things your research found, and it's something I think is really helpful in thinking about healthy friendships, is that we should assume our friends like us, even if we haven't heard from them in a minute. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, we think it's really important that, it's that reaching out for. So reaching out and just saying hi to somebody, bringing them coffee, being there for them in some way, even if it's just to hear them vent about their day. Those are the things that are really valuable in our friendships.
Sometimes it's easy to assume that someone is mad at us or doesn't like us if we haven't talked in a bit, and we're kind of afraid to make that connection again. Why do we assume that, do you think?
I think because there's some uncertainty with friendship. Family is family, right? It's a saying that we hear. So we expect that family knows that sometimes we might go a little while. Mm-hmm. We have obligations with romantic partners, but friendship is such a fuzzy zone for a lot of people. We often, as researchers say, it's a voluntary relationship. And so that's where a lot of people end up a little nervous. I think, I haven't talked to them, and it starts to build up. And so now I won't reach out. And then it just spirals and you're not talking to people.
Okay, so I have some good friends that I haven't seen in a year or more in person, but we text a lot. Is that okay? How healthy can a text-based friendship be?
Texting is very useful day to day, right? It's not a bad thing to send somebody a funny meme or say hi. But one of the things that we caution on our research is the opportunity for other technology to help if we can't see someone. So if your friends live far away, things like phone calls especially might be good for us. Whereas text messages can not necessarily hurt connection, but it's not as good as a phone call is.
Okay. And what if my friend does not live nearby at all? We can't really easily get together in person. How effective are video chats in building a bond?
Video chats are something I say I kind of caution. So one of the things we found in research is that obviously it's great to see a person on the screen and talk to them. The trade-off becomes, especially if I'm feeling lonely in my day-to-day otherwise, once I'm off the call, I had that high of, I saw you, we talked, it was great. But it also reminds me that you're not there. So it can kind of perpetuate a little. So without taking other measures as well, a video call by itself can actually be a little harmful.
Or should I not do video calls anymore? Or how can I use them to best advantage?
So this is where I really encourage it's in combination, right? So if you're saying you have friends that are far away, a video call, phone call, text, trying to use different modalities, not just one way of connecting with them is great. But then it's also about remembering the different friends in your life. So if you video call with friends from a distance, also making sure you're taking time to talk to people face to face, right? So, chat up the barista as they make you a drink for getting coffee, right? Making those connections can be really useful for us to combat loneliness. It doesn't just have to be our best friends.
Natalie, I imagine that your work really resonates with a lot of people right now who are thinking, I want to be a better friend and I want to have more meaningful relationships with my friends. What's one piece of advice that you have for people who want to connect or reconnect in a meaningful way?
So a lot of the times we end up taking relationships and connection for granted. But when we prioritize connection and say our friendships and relationships come first, it means that we are being mindful of that. And so I tell people, think of it just like exercise, right? Build the routine. The more comfortable you get spending time with people, the easier it becomes throughout the year.
Interesting. And I get what you're saying, too, about connection. We're going to the gym more this year, or maybe looking after our financial fitness. That's kind of self-focused, whereas connection seems more outwardly focused.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll say there's the chance to merge the two, right? Pausing and saying, okay, how can I combine these things? Oh, do I have a friend who's really good with finances? Maybe we can, sort of teach and learn from each other, or someone else who's also excited about going to the gym or different workout classes and making that more of a social gathering. And that's one of the things we know is really good for people.
Multitasking, but in a good way.
Exactly.
Natalie, do you have a script that you might recommend for people who want to reach out to someone that they have fallen out of touch with? It's been a while.
I would say don't overthink it. So even just sending a short message, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to lead with an apology, right? So break the ice with a joke or funny, oh, this thing made me think of you, right? So even just keeping it a little bit more casual, don't make it, oh my gosh, we haven't talked in a year, but introduce and sort of start the conversation. It gives you both space to start talking. And then if you feel like there's the need to go there, you can, but keeping it light at the start can be really useful.
Now, there are a few people listening to this who might think, a good friendship should not take a ton of work. It should just happen. What do you say to people like that who feel that this should be effortless?
No relationship is effortless. I wish they were. I think we'd say the same of family and romantic ties, that when we want and prioritize good relationships in our life, it means putting in the work for those.
Right. Well, certainly we lead busy lives. I wonder if the key is to get more hangouts with friends actually officially on our calendars rather than just hoping they happen organically. What's your take on that?
I absolutely agree. And making that effort to schedule with people and say, okay, let's look at our calendars together. Let's pick some time. I know it can feel maybe weird trying to schedule and put somebody on your calendar socially, but it helps ensure that you get to spend time together and really build that connection and fight off loneliness.
Natalie Pennington is an assistant professor of communication studies at Colorado State University. I spoke with her back in January. We'll put a link to some of her findings from the American Friendship Project in the show notes and at KUNC.org. And just to note that we love hearing from our listeners. Dan emailed us in response to our recent episode about a new state law that classifies nuclear power as clean energy in Colorado. He wrote, "There's one point about nuclear power that was not discussed that I'd like to point out. Your report mentioned that there are no nuclear plants in Colorado, and there's a good reason for that. Nuclear reactors work by turning water into steam to turn turbines. A nuclear plant in Colorado would need a large, reliable source of water to operate, and that's a very valuable resource in Colorado. We can debate if nuclear energy is clean energy, but for practical reasons, I don't think one will ever be built in Colorado." Dan, thanks so much for sharing that insight. And we invite you to reach out if you have thoughts or questions about any of our episodes. Email us noco@kunc.org. That's NOCO@kunc.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thank you so much for listening.